me.
I'm Gayle.
And That's Disturbing.
Very.
Because we're super disturbed. We're some disturbed ladies.
Very disturbed.
Disturbed mother-daughter duo. I was raised being disturbed because my mom is disturbed. I used to watch 48 Hours when I was like 3.
I feel like that's not exactly true. But definitely Scooby-Doo and stuff like that. Because you were always like, I'm scared to the creeper.
Yeah, see? All the disturbing things I could have been raised on, I was.
Yeah, and we did take you to like Terror in the Corn, which was a scary corn maze when you were like 5. And weird that you slept with us until you were 20.
Until I was 20. I slept in between my parents until I was 20. Yeah, no, that is not true. You're an asshole.
Well, disturbed. I'm disturbed is what I am.
That was an asshole thing. Hey, Mom. Nobody's following us on Instagram. We've had like 3 new followers since the last episode, since the Cecil part 2. What do you have to say about that?
I feel like we need to gain some traction.
I thought you were going to say, like, fucking follow us.
Well, no, yeah, fucking follow us. Get your friends, get your enemies, get your family, tell people on the street.
Right? Get a sticker, put it everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have those if you'd like to buy one. Stickers.
Yeah, we could do that. We could sell a sticker for like $1.50.
We could do.
Yeah, because that would be like $1 for the sticker and like 50 cents to stick it in the mail.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See?
totally.
We
could send stickers. We have stickers.
We do. We have stickers. We made stickers.
With our badass logo that we designed and
Izzy designed. Izzy executed.
We designed. And yeah, that's our badass logo. Has stickers.
Yes. There are stickers of our logo.
Available for $1.50.
Email us to purchase.
Yeah.
And our email is that'sdisturbingpodcast@gmail.com. I didn't even say our Instagram. It's @that'sdisturbingpodcast. You guys, we're having a little bit of a different day. It's morning when we're recording this. It's not 8 o'clock at night where my mom's all dead and exhausted.
Although I didn't sleep last night and I've been up since 1:40 a.m. and I laid in bed until 5 and then I got up and cleaned out a cupboard and then I went and played racquetball at 7. That's not important. Our listeners don't give a shit.
That's very fair. And pardon if you can hear my dog. She's having a clingy day. My old lady Shih Tzu. So she's out here with us, being all cute on the couch, looking down like, what the fuck, Mom? When we come out here, I sit where you're sitting, you sit where Glammy is sitting, and so why am I on the couch by myself?
Having to scrape and nest and breathe.
Yeah, breathing and licking.
Yeah.
But she's so cute.
She is very cute.
All right, let me get into my disturbing fact.
Oh, please do.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So, ancient Romans, they had some pretty whack-ass methods of execution and torture for their people.
Do tell. Should I get a notepad so I can write stuff down?
I mean, you might take note of some of these methods. So, one method of, like, torture and killing, if you will, execution, they used to beat people, and then they would sew them into a bag with a dog, a snake, a monkey, and a chicken, and then throw them into the ocean.
Oh, I feel sad for everything except for the snake and the bad person. Maybe even the snake.
I was gonna say, how could you not feel bad for the snake? The snake didn't fucking do anything.
Yeah, no, you're right. And maybe even the person.
I was gonna say, it was a good fucking chance the person didn't even do anything.
That's also fair. I said, and maybe the person.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty fucked, huh?
Yeah, that's pretty not cool.
So, another method of theirs, which this is an alleged method, but it's pretty bad. It's called scaphism, which is where the person who's, being executed is they're force-fed, and then they're covered in milk and honey, and then they're put in, like, a swamp or, like, a field, so maggots and worms will just eat them alive.
Oh, that's gross.
Yeah.
I thought the milk and honey smothered all over your body or slathered sounded good, very moisturizing and comforting until the being left to eaten by insects part came.
Well, I did just say it was a method of execution, so you really think that they're going to like
It's a spa day
before they die.
Well, maybe the execution's a surprise and they're like, hey, come over here. Let me soap you up with some honey and some milk. I'm going to get your skin all smooth and creamy.
And get your skin all smooth and supple before you go 6 feet under.
Oh, wait, just kidding. Now these insects are going to eat you.
That was like that horribly bad show that we watched on Netflix. The one episode where the guy killed his wife and he put her in, he just like doused her in honey and he left her in a field and a bunch of bees and mice and rats and all that were eating on her. Do you remember that from that horrible show with the people that were also in Degrassi were in it? And that's the reason why I wanted to watch it, was because old Degrassi actors were like in the scene again.
I think I might not have watched that season because
it was the first season.
Oh, well, then maybe I did and just totally erased it from my memory because it was not a good show.
I cannot remember what it was called.
Yeah, that's fine.
I kind of blocked it out of my memory.
Yeah.
I really wanted to like it, but man, it sucked.
But most Netflix shows don't, so...
Oh, yeah, no, Netflix originals are great. That was not a Netflix original.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, I binged Ginny and Georgia last night for hours.
Season 2?
Hell yeah.
Nice.
I told you I had to, watch a bunch of YouTube videos to, remember what happened the first season, because it was just so packed full of everything. And then, in episode 3, it started to get interesting of the second season, not just repetitive shit. And then, oh my god, the last 3 episodes, I was like, I cannot go to bed right now. It's I cannot go to bed. When the 7th episode, or the 8th episode ended, and it turned on to episode 9, I was like, okay, we're in it for the long haul.
Is there 9 episodes in the season?
There's 10.
Oh, 10. Okay. Good to know.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. So another method of torture by the Romans, not based off of Ginny and Georgia. It's kind of went on a tangent there.
Right, back on the rails.
Right, back on the rails. Was that they used to have people's feet, that they were torturing, get licked by goats, because goats like salt. So they would soak these people's feet in salt water, so, extra salty for the goats to lick. And then goats have super rough tongues, so they would, destroy the person's feet, and then they would get, salt in the wounds, So it was just extra torturous.
And that's pre-execution.
I don't know what the timeline
or it's just
was
torture.
It's just torture. It's just a method of torture.
That's a super bummer.
Yeah, it is. It's real sad.
I would not like that.
I don't like that either. Just saying. Not a fan.
No.
I don't want that to happen to me.
No.
My dad would die if that happened to him.
I wasn't going to throw him under the bus, but yeah.
He's a little bit of a princess about his feet.
Just a touch.
All right, Mom, what you got for us today?
Okay. So what I have for you, I've been working on this for a long time. And
is this the one
that I read a book for and everything?
Yeah, the one that's been highly anticipated for a very long time.
Yes, and I hope it does not disappoint. So anyway, this is the story of Nancy Spungen and Sid Vicious. And let me just preface this by saying that I know everybody knows the story or what you think is the story, but since I read the book that was written by her mom, which we'll put in the show notes, it's more, I really deep dove into Nancy growing up.
Yeah.
Because it was sad. And I felt bad for her mom I felt bad for her family when I was reading the book. And I had read it a long time ago. And I had just thought, well, I want to do that story, so I'm going to read it again. And when I was reading it again, I had a different perspective on it, I guess. And I was like, man, this is so, for a family to go through what they went through is just really sad.
That is really sad.
So
that, you read it a different time and you're looking at it from a new lens. And
yeah.
So, and you said it was from mom's perspective, so I'm guessing she's a shithead.
Yeah. Well, and it's not totally her fault. But anyway, I'm going to get into it. And then also, it's going to have to be 2 parts because normally my notes are not 28 pages. And they are now 28 pages. So it's going to be 2 parts.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm excited. This has been highly anticipated. I'm sure it's going to be great. I'm very excited. Let's roll.
Okay.
Let's jump into it.
And also, I also did a lot of other research, not just reading one book. So right. I did a lot of other research, but you have to really deep dive because you get kind of if you look it up, you get things that aren't factual. Like you just get speculation, like how people report on stuff and then somebody else just keeps rolling with it. Like it happens in all of our cases. And we've talked about that before, that something gets falsely reported and then it gets repeated over and over again. And then that becomes the truth, even though it's not necessarily the truth.
Right. That people suck.
Yeah, exactly.
So trying to is a thing.
Yeah, 100%. Even in the media, like it's not.
The media once they pick something up, they roll with it.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, it was kind of a deep dive into legit sources.
That's why we have to believe in true journalists who seek the truth.
100%.
Yes.
Yes, and not biased one way or the other.
Yes.
Or somebody who's just looking to sensationalize a story, which this family was also subjected to. So, yeah. All right, so let's get into it. I'm going to start kind of at the end-ish. Not exactly the middle of the end, my friend.
The climax?
Yeah, sure. Okay. I don't know.
Sure.
And then we'll back up. So Nancy Spungen was 20 years old when she died on October 12th, 1978, in room 100 of the Chelsea Hotel in New York City. Speculation, and I'm going to say speculation, is that she was stabbed by her boyfriend Sid Vicious, the bassist of the British punk band The Sex Pistols. And it's reported 100%, 99% of the time, places that he did kill her. But it's never been proven, and there are a lot of other kind of extenuating circumstances and theories. But it's truly, the details of her death remain a mystery. So
crazy. She was 20.
She was 20. And only the two of them really
and her
probably know what
boyfriend.
happened. And yes.
I mean, I guess that's what you hear 99% of the time, though, anyway, is that, like, the first people that are looked into after death are family and friends and significant others, especially, or,
right,
put under the, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the
microscope?
Microscope. I was going to say a headlight.
A flashlight, headlight. So anyway, the details of her death are really, really a mystery.
Okay.
Although not how she died, but by whose hand. Let's say that. Okay. So she was stabbed in the stomach with a 7-inch Bowie knife that she herself had purchased only days before. She was only stabbed once, and she bled to death under the bathroom, or in the bathroom, under the sink in the bathroom. So I'm assuming it's like a pedestal sink, because when I said it in my head, I'm like, was she in a vanity? But no, obviously she's not.
Okay.
And I know that's what you had this confused look on your face.
Well, I was also confused because you said under the bathroom, if it was like in a floorboard.
No.
I was like, how'd she get there?
No, sorry. Details. So just, she was bled to death again in the bathroom and under the sink.
That's sad.
It's terrible.
I would hate to bleed to death.
And to die in the bathroom, on the bathroom floor.
I think that's kind of just, whatever, in the bathroom, on the bathroom floor. But to bleed out?
Yeah, from a single stab wound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Horrible. So, I mean, we hear of things of overkill, right? But, like, bleeding out, that has got to just suck.
It would take a long time, probably.
Yeah. And at some point, I feel like you just feel like the air just, like, leave your lungs and just be done.
Well, I don't know. You might get shocky and pass out and stuff from blood loss first. Probably, most likely. And I guess it depends on what artery, if they were able to hit an artery, depending on how deep the stab wound was.
Did they hit an artery?
I don't know. But it was a single stab wound and she bled out. So, and there's not a real timeline of how long she was there bleeding and all that. That's why I said it's really, the two of them are probably the only two that know what really happened, unless some other theories about it are true. But who knows?
They're the only ones that know the truth.
Yeah. Well, I would think so. At first, Sid took responsibility, saying that he stabbed her, but he didn't mean to kill her. And then later, he recanted his story, saying that he'd been asleep when she died. And so that's why it's like reported that he killed her, because right away he was like, yeah, I did it. But then he said he didn't do it.
Stand up.
So the night before, and in the early morning hours leading up to Nancy's death, they were in their room partying with a bunch of friends. And according to sources who were hanging out with the couple, Sid had taken upwards of 30 tablets, words of I forgot how to say this. Tuinal, it's a barbiturate. So it's like, it'll knock you out.
Make you sleepy.
It'll make you sleepy. And he took 30 tablets.
Wow.
Yeah. So this likely
That's ambitious.
That's one word for it. Overachiever.
Right? Your friends only took 29. I'm taking 30.
I'm a topper.
Right.
So this likely would have killed most people, as you can imagine, but it did leave Sid passed out for several hours.
What?
Well, I know, weird, right?
30 sleeping pills?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, not sleeping pills, just barbiturates. So like knock you out kind of drugs, like seizure drugs, like that kind of medication that makes you tired and groggy. And like, I don't know why people want to take that to get high, but whatever.
Like horse tranquilizers?
Yeah, sure.
Is that kind of the same thing?
Yeah.
That people do horse tranquilizers and think it's like, they're like the coolest shit in the world?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, I understand, but like, that doesn't seem fun.
Yeah, no, that's exactly my point.
So there are several theories surrounding Nancy's death. One is that it was a suicide pact between the tortured lovers, or that drug dealers who brought the Tuinal to the room for Sid were the ones that killed her. Because some sources say, so remember they were partying with people, right?
Yeah.
So some sources say that the couple had $24,000 in the room and that robbery was the motive for the fatal stabbing. And the man who was accused of that, or was speculated like rumors, right? Because he was the drug dealer. He died in 2001, and he denied these allegations. But some people say he confessed to friends, but people who know him say that he was known to tell lies for shock value. And so again, I just guess we'll never really know what happened.
Like he lied and said that he did kill her?
Yeah. Well, but you don't know if it's a lie. Like he bragged and said that he killed her. He took the $24K. Like Sid was passed out from taking fucking 30 pills. So, and then like Nancy tried to stop it. Like it's all speculation, but I guess like,
I don't know.
Nancy tried to stop him from stealing the money and blah, blah, blah.
I guess at this moment I can't form a solid opinion because all these people don't sound like the most stand-up in the world. So.
Well, and even after I have all the information, I still don't. I mean, I kind of think, but I'm not 100% for sure. But we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll dive into
nobody
that
is 100% for sure.
Two.
Yeah, and nobody's 100% sure. So hotel guests reported hearing sounds of a woman moaning coming from their room about 7:30 in the morning. And at 10 a.m., Sid called the hotel's front desk asking for help. When police arrived, Sid was found wandering the halls of the hotel in an agitated state, and he was arrested for her murder. So, and that is when he confessed. Like he did, when they arrested him, he said that he did it. But then, like I said, later, he was like, no, he passed out.
Story.
He said he was passed out when she died. So we're just going to give backstory on Nancy.
Okay.
And this is pretty much going to take up part one. Because like I said, she had it was kind of a tortured life. So it's pretty sad. But Nancy was born February 27th, 1958. She born to young parents, Franklin and Deborah Spungen. The couple had married young, and Frank left for the army a month into Debbie's pregnancy. The young couple had planned on having kids, but not right away. In those days, unplanned pregnancies were not uncommon, and abortion for a, in quotes, good Jewish girl was out of the question. And she was like, not that she was religious, but like she was a rule follower and
she was a good girl.
She was a good girl. Yeah, she was a good girl. So Debbie was in college majoring in foreign languages and wanted to go into foreign trade. She lived at home with her mother while Frank was away at Fort Knox in boot camp. And so they had their own apartment until he left. And then because she was pregnant, I guess, and going to be alone, she decided to move back in with her mom. Frank had graduated from college and was going to start a good job with an accounting firm when he left the army. And so I didn't look into the army part, like if it was to pay for school, if he had like signed up to like a GI Bill or something like that. Like I didn't look into that detail.
Okay.
So, but anyway, he graduated from school, was in the army, and then was going to get a job.
I feel like that would make sense.
Right. Plus it was a short term.
I've thought about it before.
Okay. Never mind. I'm not even gonna go there.
Yeah, I know. It was a joke.
All right. So the couple had planned to live in New York City and travel and have adventures and come up in their careers together. And they're in Pennsylvania. I probably didn't say that right.
I don't think you did.
They're in Pennsylvania, and they both were attending Penn State. And so, not city. Kind of
Okay.
not rural, but not city.
Urban, but not city.
Yeah, exactly. So Debbie went into labor 5 weeks early with Nancy, and in those days they gave you sedatives during labor, so you pretty much had a baby without even knowing that you'd given birth.
That's real solid.
Right? Like they just drug you, and then all of a sudden you have a baby.
You're like, do you even know that you're pushing? Probably not.
Probably not. Not.
It just happens.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't understand how that would happen. Like, what would force the baby out? But
yeah, I don't.
I guess I'm not an MD, right? So
yeah. Well, like I said, it was back in the day that, like, instead of an epidural or a spinal or whatever, they're just like, here, have some candy. Right? Take this. When you wake up, you'll have a baby. Nancy was born with her umbilical cord wrapped around her neck. And she was cyanotic, so she was blue.
That's so sad.
Right? And they had to, resuscitate her in a way. I mean, her heart didn't stop or anything like that, but she was blue, so she was oxygen deprived, right?
Right.
And so after recovering from that, she became jaundice, which is yellow. She turned yellow. And at first they thought the problem was ABO, which is an incompatibility. An ABO incompatibility is when the mother's blood type reacts with the baby's blood type, but this wasn't the case. What happened to Nancy was that her bilirubin levels were high, and so there was bile in her bloodstream. So that's...
Ew.
Yeah.
That's sad. How does that even happen?
Well, I'm speculating that it was from something that happened with the birth, with her being the umbilical cord being wrapped around her neck. Like, they never really gave a definitive answer.
They probably don't know why.
They don't know why. And I mean, I'm going to go a little into that as well, right? So she underwent a series of blood transfusions to lower her bilirubin levels. And I mean Nancy, the newborn baby. She was held down by nurses while multiple transfusions were performed. The doctors said that they had never seen a baby fight so hard and be so intensely angry. They considered this to be a good sign that she was a fighter. So,
she's a strong baby.
Yeah,
she's fighting for her life.
She's fighting for her life. She's going to make it. So consequences of a high bilirubin can include neurological damage. And Nancy was cleared of suspicions of this early on and several more times over the course of her childhood. But another consequence of this whole thing is that Nancy was never really held or nurtured by her parents in the first 8 days of her life. And she was just subjected to poking and prodding and being held down, which, even though she was an infant, which obviously she would have had those imprint memories. So, like, instead of being held and cuddled and breastfed, and like how you put the baby up against your chest so they can hear your heartbeat because they were hearing it when they were in utero,
Right.
Like, none of that's happening. So, yeah.
So sad.
It is very sad.
And she just lost, like, her human connection.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So they took her home after 8 days, and she was a super fussy baby, and she screamed constantly. She stiffened when she was being held, and she seemed unable to relax and get comfort from being held like most babies. And again, probably because of those first 8 days of being pinned down and poked and prodded and,
sad.
Blood transfusions, which I think in babies, the blood transfusions will go through the umbilical cord.
Huh.
So not the cord, but like through the, the belly button, essentially. Yeah, exactly. So
they're still waiting for it to dry up and fall off.
Mm-hmm, yeah. But in the meantime, they're poking her heels and doing all that to like test her blood and check her bilirubin levels to see if they're going down. So poor little thing, she's a lab rat at this point. And she doesn't, she's a baby. She doesn't get it. Her eyes began to cross when she was growing up, and she seemed to have trouble holding her tongue in her mouth. And at 3 months, her pediatrician prescribed phenobarbital for sedation to help her sleep and maybe to combat some of the unknown pain she was feeling, because they couldn't pinpoint why she was like so fussy and didn't sleep and didn't want to be held and all of that.
What is that drug?
Phenobarbital is a seizure medication, so it's a barbiturate. So phenobarbital controls.
I know you said it was for sedation, but I don't know like what it is.
Well, in Nancy's case, she wasn't having seizures, so phenobarbital is a barbiturate, and it controls electrical impulses in the brain, and it's commonly used in seizure patients. But it's highly addictive, and in most cases, people develop a tolerance, and the doses must be increased, so the quantity and the frequency need to be increased. And no exception in this case, Debbie was instructed to increase the dosage and the frequency.
So sorry. I didn't know that was the next part of your notes. I would have just let you keep going and pausing to ask you what that was.
No, it's fine.
I'm like looking over my mom's shoulder and like, oh shit. She like describes it next. She's like, oh, she can just read right off her notes. She doesn't have to answer gun to her head. What is that?
It's okay. I do the same thing to you. And then I'm like, oh, wait, there it is, 4 paragraphs down.
Right. We usually do pretty good job of circling back around unless it's something like we cannot find.
Right.
But we spend a lot of time rabbit holing on things.
Oh my gosh.
Like that's, it takes up more time than the actual research for whatever we're doing, the rabbit holing.
Right. Yeah. The rabbit holing and the editing are like the longest. Although
editing the recordings, yeah.
Yeah. But the research also, like I probably have 50 hours in on this one, which is why it's 28 pages.
Which is good.
Of just notes. You know, it's not like I've got a script. I just literally have bullet points and notes.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's really sad that she was being sedated as like a little baby.
Yeah, 3 months old. So Nancy was a smart kid and she talked early, but she had a stutter, which was attributed by the doctor to her talking early.
So weird.
So Debbie was a stay-at-home mom because, you know, she's had a little baby and she resented the fact that she didn't get to use her brain or her education while Frank left every day and was becoming something. Like their plan was to come up together, right?
Right. Not have a baby and be stuck at home.
Right. Go to New York, travel.
Or have a sick baby on top of everything.
Right.
Like, that's probably got to be hard. Like, you don't want the kid, but you're a good person. And, you know, after you figure out you're pregnant, then you want your baby, but you weren't planning on having a baby. And then for you not to have, like, a healthy, like, I don't know. I guess everything it's like a new experience, right? Having a baby, it's probably very scary.
Yes.
I don't know. I have a dog. Very different. But I am her mommy, and it's scary because I have a broken baby.
Yeah.
She's got all the problems under the sun.
Of course.
Anyway. Yeah, no, it's just, I'm just thinking to myself, it's probably got to be very scary.
Well, and you don't know what's going on, and the doctor's giving you drugs to sedate your baby, which even though...
It's not like you have a walk in the park baby, or a baby who just won't go to sleep at night, or
right.
sleep more than an hour.
Right, exactly.
You have a problem child, if you will.
And you, what's the word I'm looking for? Like you're 20 years old, 21, whatever. And so you're not questioning the advice you're being given. Like it's 1958.
Yeah.
So like what the doctor says is what the doctor says. That's end of story. You know, he's the doctor, he knows. So not like today where you might be like, I don't think I'm going to get a second opinion before I drug my baby, my little tiny baby.
Right.
Right.
Sad.
So sad. But Debbie became pregnant again while Nancy was under 2 years old.
Ugh, 2 under 2.
Yeah.
And I mean, all the more power to people who can do it, but my brain goes, ugh.
A lot of work.
My 2 dogs are almost 10 and almost 18 weeks old. So, far difference in age.
Yeah.
Got a puppy and an old lady.
Way different. Both pee in the house equally as much, though, let me tell you. Anyway, I'm not going to go down that road, eh? Just saying.
He's a good girl.
Thank God we have no carpet. And constant mop going.
You may continue with your case.
Okay, well, you're the
Stop shit-talking my dog. They're just my closest comparison to having children.
Okay. That's true. It is. I mean, it is kind of like having a kid, but not exactly.
Anyway. I don't know. She's expensive.
Yeah, but you can go out without having to have someone monitor her.
Well, I probably should half the time.
Anyway, let's get back to the story.
Okay, sorry.
Back on the rails.
Apologies.
No worries. It's totally fine. It's what we do.
It is. It's totally what we do.
It's conversation.
Yep.
And off you go into a tangent. So, of course, her getting pregnant again is going to prevent her from being able to go to work for even longer, right? Because now she's going to have 2 babies. So it's like, say your kid is almost 2 years old, right? And you're like, oh, like in 3 years, they can go to kindergarten or preschool or whatever, and I can go to work.
Now she resets that 5-year timeline.
Reset that timeline. So Nancy's little sister, Susan, was an easy baby. Nancy was 19 months old when they brought her home, and Nancy was super jealous of her, and she did not want a baby sister in the house. Susan was a super easy baby, like I said, and Nancy began to have more tantrums and more outbursts, and she'd thrash herself around screaming and even hyperventilating until she passed out.
That's odd behavior for a baby.
19-month-old doing that.
Yeah, that's odd behavior for a baby.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess she's already pretty traumatized.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of speculation, and we'll get into that later about her issues, but we're just going to keep rolling right now.
Okay.
A little bit.
She passed out.
Yeah, she passed out. When Debbie talked to the pediatrician about it, she was told that it was the terrible twos. And honestly, that's not the terrible twos.
I've seen some terrible twos before, and I'm not referring to my dogs. I'm referring to, like, cousins. And those are not terrible twos. Terrible twos are, I mean, sometimes they do, like, thrash themselves around and get pissed off.
Right.
But it's mostly, like, sassy remarks.
Yeah, exactly. And crying and
food.
drama, but not, like, freaking out until you pass out. That's
not hyperventilation until you make yourself, like, pass out.
Right, exactly.
Or even, like, half the things. I mean, screaming, normal, but not working yourself up so bad to that point.
Yeah, not working yourself into a frenzy.
Yeah.
That you then pass out because you can't breathe.
I don't know that I've ever seen a kid do that.
Yeah, I haven't either. Let alone a 19-month-old.
Right, just a tiny little baby.
Right. So again, the doctor just chalks it up to the terrible twos, and Nancy's extremely energetic, and so this is just a symptom of her energy that she is then focusing on the tantrums and putting her energy into that, and so that's why it's spiraling out of control.
It takes a lot of energy to be that unstable, even as a baby.
Right. Exactly. And on one occasion, she came up from playing in the basement, and she had a strange glazed look over her eyes. And she said to her mother, in quotes, this is in the book, "I feel funny. I'm going to my room until I feel better." And her face was twisted as if she were in pain. Debbie followed her up to her room where Nancy sat on the bed and stared off into space. An hour later, she came out of her room looking normal and ready to play. And Debbie was hopeful because she's like thinking, well, maybe she's just learning how to deal with her frustration. Like she's putting herself in timeout until she calms down. So she's like, oh, that's cool, But
yeah.
Yay.
Right.
Instead of passing out.
Guessing that's not the case.
It is not the case.
Yeah, the way you've talked about her tortured life.
Yeah, it wasn't not the case.
If that was it, then guessing we wouldn't be here today.
Right, that would be the end of the story. And we wouldn't even know it. And it wouldn't have began the way I began it.
Well, it still might have, but not the whole background.
Right. Probably not, though, because this is definitely like an escalation of life that's happening here.
Getting that vibe.
So her tantrums increased in intensity and also became verbal. So, like, the more she's talking, and she's smart, right? One time, Debbie was in her room making her bed, and Nancy came in and said, "Mommy, I want you to go outside and play with me." And Debbie replied, "As soon as I'm finished." Nancy said, "I want you to go outside with me now." And Debbie repeated, "As soon as I'm finished, we'll go outside." And Nancy yelled at her, "Now." And Debbie said, "In 10 minutes. Like, she's not going to give in to her, right?
Right, not give in to the drama.
Right. And so then Nancy threatened her mother, saying, "If you don't go out with me right now, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in your closet, and I'm going to take your blue blouse, your red dress, your green skirt with the lace on it." She named pretty much every item in Debbie's closet, and she's stuttering.
How old is she at this point?
Like 2.
Jeez.
Yeah. Like,
she is smart, but
maybe
she also
2,
sounds
3, because
very vindictive.
Right. And what little baby, like what toddler has that brain,
Right.
Debbie just stopped and like stared at her because she was like in total disbelief, right? And she continued, "I'm going to go through your dresser drawer, and I'm going to get out all of your nightgowns and slips and underwear, and I'm going to get a pair of scissors, and I'm going to cut it into little strips. Your blue blouse, your red dress, your green skirt with the lace on it." She repeated the entire list. And then she said, "And then I'm going to put them on the street and let cars run over them. If you don't go out with me right now, that's what I'm going to do." And she has a stutter. She has a stutter too. So you can imagine her
right now.
Yeah, red dress. Like, I feel like that would be more intense. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's intense anyway, but I feel like
you don't even necessarily know what's coming next out of the kid's mouth.
Right.
All you hear is an R.
Right, exactly. And Debbie said she just stood there speechless, which I can imagine. I probably would too. But she couldn't believe what she was hearing from her 2-year-old. Okay, so there you go. She's 2.
Okay.
And it scared the hell out of her, as it should have. Like, holy shit, right?
Yeah, that's fucked.
I can't even.
I don't know what I would do.
Yeah.
It was pretty intense having to have a conversation with one of my cousins, telling her that Santa was going to put her on the naughty list one time. She was like 7.
So having a 2-year-old,
right, being
go on a rant like that.
dick.
Yeah. There you go. Complete dick. Okay. Debbie told her to stop, of course, and Nancy just continued repeating the list and the threat. So Debbie picks up Nancy. Nancy's punching at her and squirming, and she put her in a room and she shut the door. And Nancy opened the door and followed her downstairs, screaming the list at the top of her lungs. And so then Debbie put her hand over Nancy's mouth, and Nancy bit her.
I'm obviously not in the medical field at all. Have no room to say what I'm about to say.
But you're going to say it?
She sounds like she's kind of on the spectrum.
Well,
just given that she's like so damn intelligent for her age and that she knows all these things and can just like list them off and keep listing it off. I'm not saying that people that are on the spectrum are like vindictive like she is, but what I'm saying is like the level of intelligence and like the being good at lists,
the details kind of and the details and the focus.
Yeah, the details and the focus. There
right.
You go.
Yeah, that's a valid opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know for a fact I'm not any kind of medical professional. But
you're not in nursing school?
I'm not in nursing school. I cannot diagnostic you.
Oh, gosh. I think I need coffee.
I felt that. But I'm having a good time doing this right now.
Right? Good. I'm glad you woke up early so we can get this done. Anyway, so Debbie smacked her hard on the butt, and it had no effect on her. And Debbie then covered her ears and went into another room. It's like, okay, if I can't make her go away from me, then I'm going to go away from her, right?
I hope she locked her door.
Well, no, because she also has Susie, remember? So she's got 2 kids, a 2-year-old and a baby. Like, so if she's 2, then...
No, I'm saying I hope Debbie locked herself in a room.
No, but you can't do that when you have kids. You can't lock yourself away.
This kid sounds pretty self-sufficient.
Just because she's got the threats down doesn't make her self-sufficient. But anyway, so Nancy kept following her around, repeating the list. And then she suddenly, just like nothing, stopped, sat down in the living room, and began to play quietly with her coloring book as if nothing had happened.
Huh.
That's frightening, too. Yeah. I'd be like, oh, thank God. But then, like, what the fuck?
Yeah, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, crazy, right?
It is. I don't know how to feel about any of that.
When she asked her pediatrician for advice, he told her while it was a little more extreme than other cases he'd heard about, he just offered the advice of trying to distract her and don't let her do what she was doing. And guess what? Increase her phenobarbital.
Shocker.
Right?
Let's throw more drugs at these children.
Right. And I feel like Debbie was correcting her and trying to get her to stop and also redirecting her, like putting her in her room and like trying to just diffuse the situation by walking away from her. But that didn't work. Right. So the pediatrician just bullshit.
Yeah, that's the vibe I'm getting.
Right. So at about this time in her life, Nancy started having violent recurring nightmares, which also seems odd for a 2-year-old. Debbie wasn't getting through to the doctor about like the level of what was happening with her kid. Because I mean, yeah, kids have nightmares, but to have a recurring nightmare that's so violent when you're 2 years old.
Well, I just feel like all of these things that are happening, like the doctor's not taking seriously.
Right. The doctor's
just throwing drugs at the baby.
Throwing drugs at the baby and just brushing it off as like an overactive kid or like terrible twos.
But then again, I feel like they weren't doing that much research into this stuff at the time.
The parents or the doctors?
Right. Like, there wasn't that many like medical studies behind it all.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Like they had done research on other things. I mean, there were cures for other, like, I'm not saying there's like a cure for what's going on, but there's definitely things that could probably reduce symptoms.
Resources that might be available that weren't given. Maybe they weren't known, or maybe they just weren't given, right? she had these violent recurring nightmares about this rabbit chasing her and like biting her and stuff. And when she would wake up, she would like insist, and maybe not awake, but maybe like in still kind of a dreamlike state, but awake, like a rabbit, and that she had wounds
like
and stuff.
A fuzzy tail bunny.
Well, I guess a vicious one. And then she would have ask her mom to like put band-aids on her and stuff because the rabbit had attacked her
in her dream.
So,
or nightmare, I should say, not a dream.
Exactly, nightmare. So Debbie decided that she's going to get a second opinion finally, right? So she goes to finally. So, but again, so by this time it's probably 1960, but it's still like he's your doctor.
60s at this point.
He's your doctor. The doctor said. So it is what it is.
Well, I was going to say, I was just thinking about the fact that I commented that there weren't a lot of resources. But I feel like it's even in like, we're just now, like people just now are finally starting to be like, stop throwing meds at me. Like, let's figure out another way.
Right.
Like today, this is happening like in the last 10 years where people are like, hate big pharma. They want a naturopathic solution or like to do anything else, like acupuncture.
They'd want
you know what I mean? They don't want to be just like taking pills.
Yeah, they don't want to mask the symptoms.
They want to cure them.
They want to fix them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or find other pathways to help them manage versus, again, just masking the problems.
Root cause.
Yeah, exactly. Root cause and some kind of solution.
Yeah, no, and I feel like they weren't, like, it's just happening now that people are actually starting to, like, question what doctors are saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the question's always been there. Like, even now we're talking about that Debbie's questioning.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, it's, like, action is happening around that now.
Right. No, I totally agree. And even doctors are more, like, trying homeopathic stuff or recommending to go to an acupuncturist or to try other, like, if you're depressed, unless it's, like, truly chemical, to like work out, get sunlight.
Right.
Like
they're coming up with all these things as opposed to just
like here's some Prozac and
have some Lexapro today.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if it's chemical depression, that's one thing, but if it's situational depression.
Right.
So, and I'm just using that as an example.
No, I think that's the easiest one to probably talk about. I mean, it's easy to throw, depression medications at people, obviously. But if it's, like you said, a situational, not like a chemical imbalance, then even with a chemical imbalance, like it could probably help to get some sunlight,
Right.
Not just taking your Wellbutrin every day.
But people with a chemical imbalance probably need something to alter that.
Well, yeah, I'm not
But maybe instead of continuing to throw more and more and more,
right, upping dosages.
Yeah, exactly. There are other avenues. But man, we went off again.
We did. I'm sorry. I was just trying to throw that out there because it had my brain stirring.
It's totally fine. Yeah, and it makes sense, right? Because I wouldn't want to drug my 2-year-old. I wouldn't want to drug my 3-month-old.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, just crazy. She took Nancy to a younger doctor who actually did recommend therapy for Nancy.
Okay.
But Frank was totally against therapy and he thought it was something that Debbie was doing or not doing. And he made her feel like it was her fault. And the doctors also made her feel like it was her fault. And so a wedge grew in their relationship that would continue to grow over time. Because if your husband's not supporting you, and again, 60s mental wellness is not a priority.
Right, and mental health.
Yeah, mental health, mental wellness, like it's not a priority.
Self-care.
Yeah, and he's not home with her. So he's not witnessing, like he's probably witnessing some of it, but not to the extent that Debbie's dealing with it. And he's probably thinking that she's like exaggerating.
He's not, I wouldn't want to say he's absent, but he's at work. He's being the breadwinner.
So anyway, they did not want to do therapy. Well, Debbie didn't do therapy because Frank didn't want her to. And
sad.
Yeah.
See, that's another thing I'm talking about today. They're recommending therapy instead of taking drugs.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Let's work through the problems. So Debbie became pregnant again with a third child, a son who was named David, who was born when Nancy was 3.5 years old. And Nancy was happy to have a baby brother. and was eager to help, unlike she was with Susie.
That's sad.
It is sad.
She's like,
So,
brother, good. Sister,
go
bad.
away, right? So as the children grew older, Nancy had a hard time keeping friends, and she pitted her brother and sister against each other. And Frank and Debbie also against each other. So she's smart, right? Like she can manipulate situations.
Right. She's learning how to manipulate like
Right.
her environment around her.
Exactly.
For her benefit.
For her entertainment.
Or yeah, I would say I don't know if that's necessarily to her benefit to have everybody fighting because then less attention's probably on her.
Right. But I mean, it's for her entertainment. And she literally got a thrill out of watching people be angry and hurting people's feelings. Like it was satisfying to her. And her sister Susie was a huge target of all this anger, right? And all of this frustration that she was feeling. So from a young age, Nancy began to say that she wanted to die, which is also a huge red flag if you're a child, right?
That's sad.
And she made several attempts on her life throughout her life and also used self-harm as a way to gain control of situations. So like if her mom and dad were going to go out or whatever, then she would like threaten to hurt herself so that they couldn't leave the house.
She's an asshole.
Yeah. Well, she's manipulative is what she is.
She's an asshole is what she is.
Okay. That's fair. So
she's manipulative, but she's being an asshole.
So Debbie began to resent Frank for being able to leave the house and go on guys' nights and work trips while she stayed home with the kids, which of course, as one would, right? And dealing with Nancy's constant outbursts. And on top of that, being made to feel like it was her fault that Nancy had all these issues, right? So they both had relationships outside of the marriage, which they both admitted to and worked through. So
were they still together?
Well, he died, but not in this time frame.
Were they together until he died?
He died in like 2010, I think.
Okay.
So, but yes, they did work through all of their issues, and
that's good.
But I mean, man, you're 20 years old, and this is how your marriage starts.
Yeah,
it would be super stressful.
It would be
right?
A lot of work to do. And I do want to say that I don't know. Yes, I said Nancy's being an asshole. I definitely think she's being an asshole, but it sounds like she's got more going on than just being a brat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Well, yeah, I mean, she obviously does.
Again, the family had issues, right? Because Nancy's
got problems.
Nancy's got problems. Off and on throughout her life, she was in counseling, and her parents were told time and time again that she was okay, and there was nothing more they could do for her. And if they needed help, to come back in the future.
That's fucked.
It's fucked. When she was 10, she attacked a babysitter with a pair of scissors, which was kind of blown off by her parent or her therapist. So her parents are out of town because they've had...
How old is she? Oh,
10.
She was 10.
10 years old.
Jeez.
So her parents are out of town. They're like on a... Like her dad has like a work trip in New York or something, and they're like on a weekend getaway.
Okay.
Because they've reconciled their relationship right after they both had their extramarital affairs, and they're trying to like regain their relationship and kind of not pull away from their kids, but like have a little separation of church and state, if you will.
Yeah.
And so
have a marriage outside of your children a little bit too.
Exactly. Have a relationship that doesn't involve your kids. And so Debbie's mom was watching the kids, but then they also had a babysitter just to give her an extra hand because, it's her mom, so she's probably older.
Yeah.
And there's 3 kids, right? So
that's sad that it was just blown off.
It was just blown off. And so, of course, everyone's like freaked out, though, because the therapists don't get the gravity of it. They're like, oh, yeah, okay, she attacked her with a pair of scissors. So they're probably like thinking that,
all right, that
their safety
babysitter is probably scarred for life.
Well, and they're probably thinking that it's like safety scissors. And she was like, oh, I'm going to cut your hair. Like it was no big deal. But it was a huge, like,
when I hear attacked by scissors, I don't think I'm going to cut your hair. I think,
well,
you're probably going to try and stab somebody with the scissors.
Yeah. But like I said, the therapists are like thinking that the parents are blowing it out of proportion, right? But it was a serious situation. So in that same time frame, Nancy also attacked her mom with a hammer.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. Because she wouldn't take her to a museum that was getting ready to close in 30 minutes. And there wasn't even enough time to go, right?
Yeah, this is more than just like fits.
Yeah. Yeah, you think?
This is violence.
Yep. It's aggressive behavior. A lot of it throughout her whole life, right? So when they sought out alternative help for Nancy, they were told that they'd waited too long to get her help
Nice.
Right? And
So they're trying to get help all this time and then they waited too long.
Right? Exactly. Like no one would help them and now it's too late.
What does it mean by alternative?
Like put her into some kind of like a inpatient therapy or something like that, like behavior modification.
Not Project MK Ultra rewire her brain.
No, well maybe. But something more intense.
This is like MK Ultra time.
Yeah, it should be, right? And I don't know. But they were looking for something besides
she's 10.
Giving her phenobarbital and being told that it's their fault.
This is 68. So
right.
This is about MK Ultra time.
Well, but they're the parents are tired of being told that it's their fault because literally that's what's happened this whole time. Is they're like, you guys are just bad parents. You're just bad parents. But they have 2 other kids that aren't like this, right?
Right.
So there you go.
One bad seed.
The proof's in the pudding.
One bad seed.
Right. So again, they sought out alternative help, and they were told that nope, sorry, it's too late. There's nothing we can do for her now. So, of course, they're super fucking pissed off, right? They're frustrated. They're like, oh, my God, like, for real, we've been trying to get help since she was 2 or even before, right?
Yeah.
So when she was 11, she started refusing to go to school.
Nice.
Mm-hmm, because she said everyone hated her and everyone was against her. And
you blame them?
Well, probably was created by the way she was, without a doubt, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
So they found a structured school environment for her where she would be away from home and have 24/7 monitoring and hopefully get the help that she needed. There were no programs available that she qualified for that were not private pay because they said that the family made too much money, even though it was a huge expense for them. They couldn't really afford it, but they couldn't afford not to do it. And also there was no state subsidy for them because she didn't have an official diagnosis. So she's just a troubled, and I'm air bunnies here. She's just a troubled girl.
I love that you call them air bunnies.
Well, they look like little rabbits.
Air quotes.
They look like little rabbit ears. So they're air bunnies.
Yeah, no, that's sad. It just feels so fucked. You probably feel like you're just hitting a wall every single time you try and do anything about it.
I can't imagine. Well, that's what I said in the beginning. It's like I feel so bad for this whole family. I
feel bad for Nancy too.
Oh yeah. Well, she's part of the family.
I mean, she's obviously an asshole.
Right.
But I feel bad for her.
She's got issues.
Yeah.
Right. So it came out after Nancy's death that one psychiatrist had suspected that she was schizophrenic, but that information was never given to her parents. And it was recommended also at that time that she be given an in-depth neurological exam. But again, that was never relayed to them either. It was just in the fucking doctor's notes, and they never shared it with them. It was one of the doctors.
This could have been, not necessarily prevented, but at ease.
Well, and it was
this help.
It was one of the doctors that said, "No, you're good. She's fine." One of the doctors that dismissed her from counseling and stuff. That was like, "No, you're cool. It's fine. Come back if you need anything else." It was literally his fucking notes that he thought that she might be schizophrenic and she needed a neuro workup.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is she wouldn't have been cured, obviously, because schizophrenia is a mental disorder. So, there's a cure for it. It's not if you have a boo-boo, you can put some Neosporin and Band-Aid it, and eventually your skin will heal.
Well, and mind you, she's not been diagnosed with schizophrenia either, right?
Right, but that's what it's that's a blanket statement that they're giving them, right? That could have done something for their benefit and that the doctors kept to themselves, and it could have eased a lot of what's happening, but instead the doctors kept it to themselves.
Right. Yeah, they didn't give the parents the information, and it sucks that they found out after she died, right? Yeah. That would even piss me off even more. But anyway, so the schools that she ended up attending were not exactly equipped to deal with Nancy either. And at first she was the youngest kid in the program. And when she first started, she was exposed to things that added to her unpredictable behavior. She started smoking pot and using LSD and
Project MK Ultra
and Quaaludes at a young age. And so Quaaludes are a downer.
Barbiturate. You knew I was going to ask.
Yeah, they're like a I don't know if they are an actual barbiturate, but they're a downer. People take they call them ludes to be mellow or whatever.
Okay.
So they're not an upper drug, not speed for sure.
Gotcha.
So she was self-medicating, trying to ease her pain. Again, which was never given a real diagnosis or a label. It was just, she was suffering and there wasn't really any
answer, rhyme or reason.
Yeah, there's no diagnosis. There's no definitive, this is what you have and this is why it's like this and let's figure it out. It was just bummer. Let's keep going.
Right.
Right. So Nancy loved music and had an ear for what was up and coming, according to Susie and David, her brother and sister, right? So when she was 14, she had a boyfriend named Jeff who was in a band at her school. And she was completely obsessed with him because he's in the band and she loves music. Like she had records when she was like a young girl and stuff, like young, like listening to stuff that was probably too old for her. But like her parents were like, okay, whatever. Like she spent all of her allowance like on records and stuff.
Okay.
And so she was with this kid, Jeff, right? And she believed that she was pregnant and she's 14. And she performed an abortion on herself with a coat hanger.
Wow.
And she perforated her uterus and began hemorrhaging. And a staff member at the school found her and she was taken to the emergency room. And it was later determined that she wasn't even pregnant. But Nancy refused to believe that. Like she was totally convinced that she was pregnant.
Well, I guess when you make yourself believe things, you're going to believe it regardless.
Right. 14, coat hanger abortion.
That's so sad.
Oh, that's like, it makes me cringe inside.
Yeah, it makes me feel uncomfortable pain.
Yeah.
Unnecessary pain.
I feel bad for her.
Well, like mental and body pain is like what I'm feeling right now.
Right? It's cringeworthy.
It absolutely is. Like it makes my face just do things that are uncomfortable.
Wince.
Yeah, I don't like to do those faces, and they happen right now.
Yeah,
they happen right now. That's English.
They happen. So when Nancy was gone, her family had a more normal life. And when she came home on vacation and for the summer, she wreaked havoc on the family dynamic. And of course, they loved their daughter, and Susie and David loved their sister, and they wanted to do everything they could to help her. But at the same time, they wanted to maintain a normal home. And the four of them wanted to have like the kind of family unit that they had when she wasn't there, when she was there.
Okay.
They're like, why can't like this normal, easy flow of life be when Nancy's here? Like, why can't she be a part of this normalcy? Why when she comes, does it flip on its head?
Yeah.
Right.
Why is when she around, everything's insane, nonstop and ridiculous. But when she's there or when she's not there, it's fine and normal and settled.
Really, it's very sad. Super sad. Because I can only imagine trying to like, I don't know, like you have a normal family existence and then somebody comes and just fucking throws a monkey wrench into it, and it's somebody that you love and care about, but you don't want to fucking deal with that shit.
Well, this is also what I'm thinking in my brain. I'm sorry, I keep going off.
That's okay.
But what I'm thinking in my brain is that this is also like the time that, I mean, it still happens today at orphanages and, or just putting a kid up for adoption, point blank period. But I think she'd be more of kind of like an orphanage situation.
Foster care.
Sure, the system.
Right. But her family's dedicated to her.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. Like, that's got to be hard because her family loves her, so they're willing to, like, do all these things and put up with it all, even though, that's just very clearly who she is, but they're still willing to put up, and it's got to suck.
It does have to suck.
I'm just thinking, not that I'm saying, like, they should have put her in foster care, but, like, I feel like that would have been a pretty normal response. And
I don't know. I think a lot of people go through this kind of stuff. I think you have to be a very special kind of person to give up on your kid.
A lot of people do.
I know, but I don't know. I don't get that.
Yeah,
anyway,
fucked up to do it.
Let's get back in the train car.
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So Nancy, at one point stole her mom's car, and she was arrested. And she stole it and totaled it. Sorry.
Oh God,
I've missed the totaling it part.
How old is she?
Well, she was around 16 because she kept trying to get her driver's license, but she kept failing to get her driver's license. So she didn't have her driver's license
when she stole it.
Stole her mom's car to go hang out with her friends and go party and whatever. And she was arrested, and she refused to accept responsibility for her actions. And maybe she's not quite 16. Maybe actually she's 15. She's 15 years old. And she said the car just had a little scratch on it when it really had rolled end over end, and it was totaled.
How was she?
She was fine. Like, she had a couple of scratches or whatever.
So she was the one that was scratched up. The car was totaled.
The car was totaled.
She flipped the story.
Right. Flipped the script here. So she stole jewelry and money from her mom to pay for drugs, which is really fucking sad. And the school that she was attending was trying to get her graduated early because they wanted her out and didn't want to deal with her. So at 15, they're like, hey, she's ready to graduate. Like, she's way ahead scholastically. And she was super smart, right? But she's also 15. And they, the school's like, hey, we're going to graduate her and try to get her in college and stuff. And her parents convinced the school to let her stay for one more year. and not to graduate her until she was 16 because they were like worried about how she's going to do in college when she's 15 years old, like socially. You know what I mean? Like she's not going to be
going with a group of 18-year-olds.
Right. So at least let's give
the kid. She doesn't even have her driver's license at that point.
So let's give the kid one more year, right? So she was super smart, like I said, and she did very well academically. And when she graduated at 16, she applied and was accepted to CU Boulder.
Sco Buffs.
And she went to the summer program there prior to starting the fall semester to see if she could acclimate well to college life because she was so young, right?
Right.
And she did great. So her parents were super excited about this. She loved it, and it
Who
was.
wouldn't? I do too.
Boulder's beautiful.
Boulder's amazing,
and I can't imagine how beautiful it was. Probably that time, probably better than it is now.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So she loved it, and again, it's a super welcome surprise for her parents, right? And so at this point, they're like hopeful. They're like, "Oh, cool! Like finally,
someplace where she fits in that she wants to be."
Right.
Also.
Finally, her life is gonna start heading in the right direction, right?
Good trajectory for her.
Right. So when she went back in the fall, she fell into the wrong crowd because, again, the drugs. She's smoking pot.
She's Nancy.
Smoking pot, Quaaludes, LSD. She was arrested once for buying weed from an undercover police officer who was just given a slap on the wrist because of her age. And then she was caught with stolen ski equipment in her dorm room, for which she was expelled. And when her dad went to pick her up from school, he was informed that they were trying to bring down a drug ring that was part of the theft that Nancy was involved in. And she wouldn't face any charges because they didn't want to compromise this investigation that they had going on, right? Because this, like, Nancy's having stolen shit is like surface level, and they're trying to get, like,
to the bottom line.
They're trying to get some drug ring taken down, which obviously the 16-year-old girl with stolen shit in her room isn't going to take down the thing, but it's like, It's a connection to what's going on. So they didn't want Nancy to know about it because they didn't want to tell her to tell people, right? So they told Frank, but they were like, hey, don't tell her because this is why we're letting her off.
Right.
But she's
charges.
Done. Right. But she's expelled from school. She has to go. She was expelled effective immediately. And for whatever reason, she blamed her dad and pretty much never spoke to him ever again.
That's sad.
It is sad. I mean, she did a little bit, but it was really like she totally didn't.
She hated her dad because she thought he just went and dragged her out.
She talked around him.
Okay.
You know, she'd be like, Susie, can you have your dad pass me the salad? That kind of shit. Ouch. Ouch is right. So when she came home, she continued to wreak havoc on the family. Shock.
Yeah.
Right. She decided that she wanted to move to New York and get a job. And her parents agreed to let her because they're like, we can't keep doing this, right?
Right.
And they said that they would help her with rent and food until she got a job. However, they would not give her money directly because they knew that she had developed a drug habit. They just didn't know the extent of the drug habit at this point in time.
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously she's been arrested twice one was for buying weed and another was for stolen shit with a drug ring.
Yeah.
So, you know.
She's pretty in deep.
Yeah, she's got some little habits going on.
She's got some skeletons in her closet, that's for sure.
So Debbie helped Nancy find an apartment and she moved her in. And then Nancy found work as a topless go-go dancer.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what you want for your 16-year-old. And she was also turning tricks to support her heroin addiction.
Oh, great. So she's turned to heroin.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's super addictive.
Yeah. Oh, just a touch. So not only did Nancy support herself as a prostitute and a dancer, but she also wrote small articles for music magazines because, again, remember, she loves music. She has an ear for up-and-coming stuff. And she became a band groupie. She would sell the band drugs and make herself available for companionship and sex in exchange for backstage admittance. And in some cases, she even went on the road with some of these bands, and she would always inevitably be kicked off the tour because of her outbursts and starting fights and stuff. So she just can't keep her shit together no matter where she goes.
If she was around today, she would probably be real good on TikTok, predicting the up and coming. No, don't make that face at me. There's people who seriously do that and they're good at it, predicting the next year's trends or whatever. People do it fashion, people do it music, people do it stocks.
Okay.
It's very interesting. I watch a bunch of these channels. She'd probably be good at doing that for music.
Okay.
Just saying, just a thought.
Okay.
But anyway, that's wild that she's have sex with me and let me in backstage.
well. It's band groupies.
I'll suck your dick.
There's a whole book called I'm with the Band that's about this chick that's a band groupie. You should read it.
That sounds weird.
Yeah.
It's a weird lifestyle to think about.
Yeah, you think? and she was like even friends with Debbie Harry from Blondie. Like, so she had legit connections to people in the music industry. And so, she was getting it, or she was trying to get it.
She wasn't getting it. She was trying.
She was trying to get it. So she made 2 attempts at sobriety, and she went on methadone, and she got clean, and she was doing well. But unfortunately, then the life that Nancy loved would always bring her back to the drug scene because she likes the clubs, she likes the music.
Right, and that's where the drugs are.
And that's, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, as they say.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
As they say. So when she heard about the Sex Pistols, she decided to go to London, and she had her sights set on Johnny Rotten, who is the lead singer of the Sex Pistols. And because the punk scene is starting to evolve. Okay. And so that's why she's going to go.
They're on the up and coming, and she knows it.
Right. Because they're a punk band. And so she's like, and punk's kind of like it was a English movement at first. So she's like, I'm going to go get in on this scene. And Johnny Rotten's the head of the Sex Pistols, the lead singer. So I'm going to go get me some of that.
Yeah, got it.
And that's where I'm going to wrap.
Okay.
Because
that's interesting. That's all very interesting and sad.
It is interesting and sad. But again, I'm going to wrap because then things take a turn, obviously.
Right. In part 2.
Part 2.
Part 2.
Stay tuned.
Sid and Nancy. Nancy and Sid.
I like to call it Nancy and Sid.
Max and Ruby. Ruby and Max.
Well, everybody calls it Sid and Nancy. Everybody calls the duo Sid and Nancy. But to me, the bigger part of this story is Nancy. And the sadder part of this story is Nancy.
Okay.
But as we'll get into part 2,
the next part.
As we'll get into part 2, Sid also has a sad story.
Okay.
So, it's that, what is it? 2 kindred spirits that meet.
I was going to say when 2 worlds collide.
2 worlds collide. There you go. All right. Thanks, guys. And I hope you're enjoying this, and we'll be back with part 2. It won't be too long.
Have a beautiful day, a beautiful time. Stay healthy. Goodbye.
Bye.